Josh is taking a shower. There's music playing outside because of the ice skating rink. And I am extremely hungry and waiting for food to cook. So, alas, here we are. I'm gonna record a video to kill the time. So hi guys, my name is Izzy. I'm a sporadic YouTuber. Today, I'm going to be telling you my worst books of 2017. So let's get into it. So there is no order to this. There's no order at all. I'm just gonna dive in. I think there's about 10 books that I just didn't like, and yeah, for different reasons. Let's get into it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Gunslinger, The Dark Tower, the first book by Stephen King. I've heard this series gets a lot better, and I will be continuing the series because me and my boyfriend are both reading them. So this is like kind of high fantasy, but a lot of times it's very confusing. There were a couple scenes that I did enjoy, but for overall, I'm just like, what? And there was a lot of it that was borderline sexist stuff in here. There was a lot of calling women whores and a lot of references to men's junk, and I'm just like, okay. It was something. I'll give it that. It was something. The next one I'm going to talk about is This Is the Way by Gavin Corbett. Mostly it was the writing style of this, and I've realized that it's an Irish thing. A lot of Irish literature writes the same style, and I just can't get into it. Like, I tried another book that was written by an Irish author, and I had the same exact feeling. Like, I couldn't even, it was one of the few books that I like DNF'd. Like, I read the first chapter and I'm like, no, I just can't do it. And it's mostly the writing style. So this one was kind of the same way. Can't even tell you what this book is about, because at the end I still had no fucking clue what was going on, because the writing style was just like, what? And the reason I picked this up was because it was supposed to be like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. It says, imagine Romeo and Juliet if Romeo had made peace with the Montagues and the Capulets by the strength of his fists, married Juliet, became a wife-beater, found religion, and left his son and brother facing the consequence of the revival of the interfamily war. None of that, like, I didn't get any of that from this. I don't know. I can't even tell you what really happened in this. The next one is super disappointing for me, and I'm like, I haven't really talked too much about this one yet. But this is With Malice by Eileen Cook. I was really excited for this. Really excited, because it's a thriller. It's a YA thriller, which YA thrillers a lot of times fall flat for me. So anyway, this one, my main problem with this book was the ending mostly. Like, I was starting to get into it. The main character I don't care for, and that's a thing, but usually not likable characters I can deal with. Like, I read The Dinner by Herman Koch, and no one is likable in that book, and that was fine. And there's a lot of girl on girl pettiness that I'm just so over in my books. Like, I'm just so over that girl on girl pettiness, and I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of girls being, and I'm sick of authors writing teenage girls as being bitches, because not every teenage girl is a bitch. A lot of them are. I was a teenage girl once, I know. I feel like they don't give enough credit to these girls, and yeah. Anyway, this was just not my cup of tea. It was too much drama, not enough thriller, if that makes any sense. The next one is one that kind of makes me a little mad as well, because it's such a dense book and it takes so much work. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. You guys know this was like my biggest accomplishment of the year, but I will never read it again, and I don't understand why people love it. That I don't get. I need someone to tell me. If you really like this book, please tell me why, because I can't fathom it. So one of the problems I had with this book was there was too much like stuff that like wasn't necessary to the story, and I understand it's like a look into Russian life, so I understand that, and I'm really glad I listened to the audiobook because it made those kind of parts tolerable, because I was listening instead of, like, you know, reading, and I could do other things to keep me, you know, going. So I wish I would have listened to the audiobook for the whole thing. I only listened to the audiobook for little over half. Really recommend the audiobook if you're looking to read this. There would be like just chapters and chapters of just Levithan, one of the characters, just being out in the fucking field farming. And I'm like, that's not, it's not relevant to the storyline. I don't understand. Why do I need to know this? I don't care. So there was a lot of that, and I'm like, we get it. He knows how to plow a field. I get it. That's a euphemism. He knows how to plow a field. Kitty's field. Woo woo. Anyway, I was starting to really enjoy Anna. I'm like, this is a feminist character. She cheated on her husband and left him for, you know, the guy that she loved, and she left a marriage for love, which is hard to do in this time period. So I get it. But the ending made me furious and made everything that she was, like her big strong feminist character, just irrelevant to me anymore. Not my cup of tea at the end. And I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, so I don't want to tell you what happens at the end, but if you've read it, we can talk about it in the comments. The next one is a graphic novel that I did not like. So I picked this up from the dollar store, so it was $1, so it's not that big of a deal. No harm, no foul. This one looked like my cup of tea. It's very vulgar at times, which I like. And it was very like out there as well, which I like. But like the story jumped like all over the place. All over the place. Like it would just jump. It's like this was missing pages. Like that's how it felt. Like it was missing pages and at certain times, and that just annoyed the shit out of me. So I read Down a Dark Dark Hall by this person. This is Lois Duncan. This is Summer of Fear. And I read Down a Dark Dark Hall by her, and I really enjoyed it. It was like a YA kind of middle grade thriller-ish, and it gave me the willies, which was good. And this one is just straight up girl on girl pettiness, and it's like straight up girl on girl hatred and just pettiness, and again, I'm so sick of girl on girl pettiness. I'm done. I'm done with that. The next one is This Is Now by S.E. Hinton. She's the girl who wrote The Outsiders. This one, I can't even tell you. Like, it was just, not much happened. It was just, eh. It was just like, I'm just like, okay, that was a waste of my time, but I read it. And on the back here it says, hard to forget. I forgot it already, so. The next one is Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this one, and I'm sorry. So I will say that I do like this book better now that I've watched the movie and I've seen the characters in flesh. So in the flesh or whatever, and I do like this story a lot better. But my biggest problem with this was the ending. I saw it coming a mile away. I just can't. It was just so predictable. I'm done. I'm done. The next one is On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I think my biggest problem with this one is I wanted to like it so much. I love How by Allen Ginsberg, and I love Allen Ginsberg. I love his writing, I love his poetry, I love Allen Ginsberg. And so I was really hoping that I would like this because it's from the same Beat generation, and I didn't enjoy this at all. It took me forever to get through, and Jack Kerouac I've realized is just not for me, which really sucks because I love Allen Ginsberg. So maybe the Beat generation is only good to me in poetry because it's short and quick, and you know, you can go through it quicker. But this was just following the main character go back and forth across the country, there's a character in here, Dean, which is my most hated character of the year, by the way. There was so much like sexist bullshit in here, which I get. This is like from that generation that it was like acceptable, but it just sucked. The next one is The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. So I felt kind of bad putting this one on this list. I should have read this and then watched the show because I feel like I would have appreciated this a lot more. But the show and this are quite different, at least like character-wise. Like the characters, there's a lot of the same characters, but I feel like in the book they have no value to me. Like they're all just terrible human beings, all of them. And in the show, like you get invested in the characters way more than you do in the book. Kind of a bummer, but I do really love the show, by the way. The show is so much better, which I figure I have to include a book on this list. If I love the show that much more, I feel like I have to include the book that is not as good, because that rarely happens. So there you go. Those are the worst books I read in 2017, or at least disappointing books that I read in 2017. Peace, I'm out, goodbye, I'm gonna go make food now.